Hello everyone and welcome back to JB's Total Gaming, where like I did last week and I'm going to hopefully do this every week, I'm going to talk about what I think are the best values in the Steam sales for that week. Now unlike last week, not all of these games are on sale the exact same amount of time, but I'm bringing you 8 games that I think are maybe at least worth an interest and possibly picking up if it sounds interesting to you. And the best part is the first 5 of them I've actually done videos on if you want to check those out for yourself. So the first one is Stellaris. It is on sale for 40% off at $24 American, and I love this game. It's one of the few games I've actually done a small playthrough of. So if you want to check out Stellaris, go ahead and start watching some of that playthrough where I try to explain what's going on. Now, I was a pretty new player at the time when I was doing it, but you know, we're learn together, if you will, if you're not familiar with the game. And it's a big, grand space strategy, 4X, civilization sort of game done by Paradox, kind of the masters of that genre. And in general, their games have been exceedingly complex, where Stellaris tries to bring it down a little bit more and make it a little bit more accessible to people who don't want incredible amounts of intricacies of things going on. There's still a lot going on. It's still a complicated game, but the most approachable of their games to date, and I think it's fantastic. Alright, next up is Sid Meier's Civilization 6. Now, I also did a brief series of videos on this game, and it had started as a $60 game, so it's 33% discount and brought it down to $40.19, so not as big of a discount. However, this is the game that, if you watch my Game Award shows from last year, that I gave Strategy Game of the Year to. And here's the deal. Stellaris was fantastic, and Civ 6 I might have enjoyed just a little bit more at the time, but it's tough for me to say, having played them both quite a bit more. They're both fantastic games. Now this is in the traditional Civilization style of game. If you've played any of those, this one I think is the best at launch of the recent games, and there were a few issues with it at launch, and they've actually fixed a lot of those issues. And like I said, go check out that series if you're not familiar with Civ or how it works, or if you're familiar with Civ and don't know what's really different about 6. It's a whole interesting mechanisms with districts and how the city actually has to expand out. They don't all just exist in one tile, and I think it's, again, a fantastically done game. And if you're waiting for a discount, you may get a bigger discount eventually, but third off's at least pretty decent. Alright, next up is Offworld Trading Company. I also did a video on this. I love this game. This is one of those games where I just wish I had more time to play games so I could play this game more. And it is a real-time strategy game where you don't have units to it. You do attack your opponent in a way, but the point of it is that it's an economic game and you're trying to buy out all of your opponents. It is on sale for 75% off for $10. Trust me, go watch my video on it, and if it looks interesting at all, I suggest checking it out. Now, there is quite a bit of... It's pretty tricky to catch on to right away. There are different factions, and then there are different things that those factions rely on, and there's, obviously the buy low, sell high thing, and you can manipulate prices. You can attack your opponents through different sabotage actions. You can try to protect against sabotage actions on places you really expect them to attack, like maybe a power plant you have or something like that, because it can be very important. There's a lot of in-depthness to this game. Like I said, go check out my video on it. If it looks interesting, for $10, I really suggest checking it out. It is very cutthroat, and I don't necessarily suggest playing online until you've really gotten used to it, but this is a game that has a really great concept. I don't think it got nearly the attention it deserves, and for $10, if that idea interests you at all, then I highly recommend it. Alright, next up is Forced Showdown, a game I think I talked about in the previous video, and then I also did a full run through. I split up into 2 videos of kind of the beginner dungeon, if you will, and the only one I've actually beat of the game. And again, I've played quite a bit of this game, but not good enough to get really good at it. And while I enjoyed Flame Break just a little bit more, as far as last year's sort of new roguelites, and Enter the Gungeon was also fantastic. This is a game I really, really liked, and it has a card mechanism is kind of the unique thing. And at first I thought that sounded like a bad idea, but you unlock things throughout the game. You don't pay microtransactions, you just achieve things to unlock it, and then you bring a deck to a match, and there's different types of characters that you can use, and you do that in order to try to get through the dungeon. And I think the card mechanism actually works really well. So if you like the idea of adding a little bit of a slight deck builder to it, along with the kind of twin stick style roguelite, and very different sort of characters to play, a more melee character, a fast character, you know, the base character is kind of range that I use the most, then I highly suggest checking this game out. It's 55% off for $9 if you like the whole roguelite experience and the idea of mixing in a light element of deck building, then definitely check this out. Alright, next up is Minion Masters. I did a video on this. This is basically designed to be like Clash Royale on the phone, but for the PC, and to be a little bit less pay to win. For example, if you get more cards of a certain type, it doesn't like upgrade that unit or something like that. I believe you can do paid transactions in it, but it's fairly generous in actually getting new cards and things like that. You only get like one card at a time, but you don't need multiple copies of a card. It's a unique system. Go check out my video on that if you've played Clash Royale or enjoyed it. And if you're not familiar with that game, basically there are these two lanes in this game. You get bonuses by controlling one or both of the bridges. You definitely deck build in this, and then the cards you use are your units. You can put them out in certain points in the battlefield depending on the card, and they basically go and attack each side. So there's a decent amount of strategy to it. Games are usually pretty quick, and it's one that I really enjoy. I believe will be going free to play eventually. This is early access. It normally costs $5, and it's 99 cents now, so pretty big discount. If it interested you and you didn't want to pay the money for it, then I suggest checking it out. Now on to games that I don't have any videos for these, although I have talked about some of them before. Alright, Mordheim. This is a game that I talked about, I believe, in my Warhammer games that are actually good. There are a lot of bad Warhammer games out there, and, well, there are some good ones, though. And this one is very derisive. It's very split down the middle whether people like it or not. I think the concept is interesting, and it's basically kind of a turn-based strategy where you're building up your unit over time. There is permadeath for units within the game. You have to collect a weird stone and do missions in order to, you know, gain loot to power up your guys, give them better skills, weapons, armor, things like that. But if your guy dies, then that's gone. Now, the thing about this game is that, and probably one of the reasons that a lot of people don't like this game, is that it is pretty hard, and there is no, like, save feature. Like, you can't, like, restart a mission after you've gone into it. So, if you just have a really bad mission, everybody dies, and you didn't really have much else left, that might be the end of that run. Now, some people are okay with that. They think it adds gravity to the game, but I know a lot of people didn't really like that. Right now, it is 75% off for $10. And again, I think this game concept looks interesting, but I haven't actually played it myself. I've watched quite a bit of it. And again, I think the concept's cool, but I don't know if the difficulty without saving is really for me. You can call me a filthy casual if you want, but that can be up to you. But I do still possibly recommend it if you're okay with that concept. Alright, second to last, we have Duskers, which is 40% off for $12 American. Duskers is a really unique and cool game if the concept sounds appealing to you. So you can see here, you're looking at this screen where you are controlling these droids, basically. They look like the little vacuum sweepers that go around. And some of them do different things, and they can be upgraded or damaged or whatnot. But you don't control them directly per se. You have to type in keyboard commands. Now, you may eventually learn shortcuts in order to do things quicker. But it's kind of I don't even really want to call it suspense, but there's a bit of scariness to it. Like we just saw that droid with red, there was an enemy in the room, the lights were off, it was scanning with its flashlight trying to see what's going on. And it's a very tense game in that when you first start off, you're just exploring, opening doors or whatever, but eventually bad things start happening. You don't always know what the bad things are, and you have to try to deal with it as best as possible, closing off doors, doing things to get around the danger or possibly creatively get rid of the danger, all the time having to do all your commands on the keyboard. So it's a really unique concept, really tense, and if that doesn't sound cool to you, then it may not be worth checking out. But if that concept sounds interesting to you, kind of, I don't even want to call it a real-time text adventure, but having this vague idea of what's going on, using your units properly to figure out what's going on, trying to keep them alive, maybe sometimes you even have to sacrifice one in order to achieve something, thinking of creative solutions resolutions all the time, having to, not necessarily frantically type, but at moments when things get tense, remember the shortcuts, frantically type and try to coordinate all of your units to survive and explore basically these big space hulks, to bring Warhammer back into it, then this is a really cool game if that concept sounds interesting to you. Last, Geometry Wars 3, Dimensions Evolve. This is on sale for 50% off for $7.50 American. And, well, this is a game I know a lot of people have played, but if you haven't played it, I mean, just look at it. It's visually cool to look at, and it can get progressively tougher. There's definitely some skill to being able to do everything within the game. It's just a really cool game if you're into this sort of style, where, you're kind of dodging bullets, having to destroy stuff, trying to just, again, a fairly frantic game where there's a lot going on, trying to survive. Plays a bit like a twin stick bullet hell, whatever you want to call it, but both the execution of this game and just the look of this game is excellent. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out now, then maybe now is the best time to do so. So there's 8 games that I think are pretty interesting and maybe worth a look if that sort of game sounds appealing to you. 5 of which I've done videos for if you want to check that out. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.